So if TUC wants to have one, we need a new volunteer to step up and say they want to organize it. If you want to be this person or people, contact the office by Memorial Day. If we don't hear from anyone by then, we won't be having an end of the year celebration. Next Saturday from 9 to noon is the Gardening Committee's Planting Day. Come and get your hands dirty and be part of the food chain to local food pantries or grow your own food. Plant vegetables and flowers for our neighborhood. We had a really great time last Saturday building the new garden plots across the street. You can check out our work. And playing in the dirt is a wonderful activity for all ages. Look for your annual meeting packets, which will arrive by the U.S. mail this week. At the annual meeting, we'll be voting on whether or not to join the Community Renewal Society, among other things. CRS is an organization of churches and community organizations. Their issues are drawn directly from listening to member congregations and community residents. The current issues are reforming education funding, removing barriers to employment, reducing violence, opposing mandatory minimums, fighting for good jobs and housing, and ending police brutality. More information is on the CRS website, or you can speak with our own Karen Alanis. Next Sunday's forum is canceled because our board candidates, the lovely Barbara Miner and Nina Bollinger, are not able to be there. But you can catch them at coffee hour or know them for years and years. Our celebration of life next week continues our exploration of traditions with the sermon, Knowing Home, Reflecting on Inheritance. On this Mother's Day service, we'll reflect on the variety of traditions we've inherited from both family and community. What has served us well, what has been limiting. How can we be more grounded in the pieces of our tradition that are nourishing while letting go of the things that hold us back? Once again, welcome to Third Unitarian Church.
We light this chalice, a symbol of hope, faith, freedom, and love, and connect with Unitarian Universalists in the past, present, and future. This morning's opening words are an excerpt from a public statement from UU Religious Professionals of Color. The uprising that has come from the senseless death of Freddie Gray results from years of a pattern that sadly is not seen only in Baltimore, but in other cities with large black and brown populations, such as Oakland, New York, Sanford, Tulsa, and Chicago. This pervasive, vicious system operates in every state and region. Our hearts are broken like the system in which we live, and we seek to respond to the unrest with compassion, love, and a commitment to systemic change. The time is past. We people of faith must gather with the beaten, the murdered, and the oppressed. We gather together with all of the people who protest, march, and cry for freedom, and we honor the memories of all those members of our human family: Oscar Grant, Rekia Boyd, Trayvon Martin, Renisha McBride, Michael Brown, Eric Garner, Tamir Rice, Maya Hall, Walter Scott, Freddie Gray, and too many others whose names do not make the sensationalist media, who have died at the hands of racist oppression. You have not died in vain. We stand, march, resist, and fight for and on the side of love. We call on the UUA to reevaluate its national prophetic voice after participating in the recent commemoration of the 50th anniversary of the events at Selma. Sanford, Ferguson, New York, Baltimore, these are our Selma. Please rise in body or in spirit as we all sing the opening hymn, which is printed as an insert in your order of service and is also number 1023 from the Teal Hymnal, Building Bridges.
the covenant of this church, which is printed in your order of service. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Unless you'd like to join us up on the chancel for the story for all ages.
Teamwork. All right, so good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Welcome to our story for all ages. And I understand if you're joining us here in body or in spirit. I should start with the monthly theme for the month of May. See if I get this correctly, because I make mistakes all the time. Is the story of, or the theme of traditions. Tradition. And I could not find a children's story that was sort of like Fiddler on the Roof with a cool song and traditions. But Pierce and I, we watched the song on YouTube. So to get in the theme for this month. And I think Jennifer later will be talking about how we do what we do at TUC, how we do church, as a tradition. And we'll miss some of that, especially if we go outside to play or go up to the RE space, right? So the book I chose was a story about starting a new tradition. And the story is an old one, but oldie but a goodie, called Stone Soup. And I'm hoping that no one has actually seen this particular version of Stone Soup because it's set in China. You've seen this one? Oh, okay. So instead of 3 soldiers, it's 3 young monks who come to this village who are very kind of cold and do their own thing. And that's not a reflection of TUC or traditions. But I was trying to think of a way to get the idea across that people do what they do for a very long time and they get stuck in their ways. And sometimes it takes maybe children with new ideas to help them get unstuck. So, that's my preface for the story. So thank you for bearing with me. It's the preface. And we'll start. All right, so thank you, Jennifer. 3 monks, Hawk, Lock, and Siu, travel along a mountain road. They talked about cat whiskers, the color of the sun, and giving. What makes one happy, Siu? Asked Hawk, the youngest monk. Old Siu, who was the wisest of the 3, said, let's find out. So I'm going to say that this is Siu, the wisest of the 3, and this is Hawk. We've got a great car alarm to sort of go along with our story this morning. All right, the sound of a bell brought their gaze to the rooftops of a village below. They could not see from so high above that the village had been through many hard times. Famines, floods, war had made the villagers weary and untrusting of strangers. They had even become suspicious of their neighbors. The villagers worked hard, but only for themselves. There was a farmer, a tea merchant. There's a tea merchant. There's a scholar. A seamstress, a carpenter, a a doctor, and many others, but they had little to do with one another. When the monks reached the foot of the mountain, the villagers disappeared into their houses. No one came out of the gates to greet them. And when the people saw them enter the village, they closed their windows tight. So not the best greeting ever. The monks knocked on the door of the first house. There was no answer. Then the house went dark. They knocked on a second door, and the same thing happened. It happened again and again from one house to the next. These people do not know happiness, they all agreed. But today, said Siu, his face bright as the moon, we will show them how to make stone soup. So how many of you know the story of stone soup? Raise your hands if you think you know the story of stone soup. Anyone else know the story of stone soup? All right, we'll see where this goes. For those of you who do not know. They gathered twigs and branches and made a fire. They placed a small tin pot on top and filled it with water from the village well. A brave little girl who had been watching came out to them. "What are you doing?" she asked. "We are gathering twigs," said Locke. "We are making a fire," said Hawk. "We are making stone soup, and we need 3 round, smooth stones," said Siu. The little girl helped the monks look around the courtyard until they found just the right 3 stones. Then they put them in the water to cook. "These stones will make excellent soup," said Siu. "But this very small pot won't make much, I'm afraid." "My mother has a bigger pot," said the girl. The little girl ran home. As she started to take a pot, her mother asked what she was doing. "Oh, the 3 strangers are making soup from stones," she said. "They need our biggest pot." Said the girl's mother. "Stones are easy to come by. I'd like to learn how to do that." So the monks poked the coals, and as the smoke drifted up, the neighbors peered out from their windows. The fire and the large pot in the middle of the village was a true curiosity. One by one, the people of the village came out to see just what this stone soup was. Of course, old-style stone soup should be well seasoned with salt and pepper, said Hawk. "That is true," said Locke, as he stirred the giant pot filled with water and stones. "But we have none." "Well, I have some salt and pepper," said the scholar, his eyes big with curiosity. He disappeared and came back with salt and pepper, and even a few other spices. So they put that in the pot, and Siu took a taste. "Well, the last time we had stone soup of this size and color, carrots made the broth very sweet." "Carrots," said a woman from the back. "Well, I may have a few carrots, but just a few." And off she ran. She returned with as many carrots as she could carry and dropped them into the pot. So you may have an idea of where this is headed, yeah? "Do you think it would be better with onions?" said Hawk. "Oh yes, maybe an onion would taste good," said a farmer, and he hurried off. He returned in a moment with 5 big onions, and he dropped them into the bubbling soup. "Now that's a fine soup," he said. The villagers all nodded their head, as the smell was very agreeable. "But if only we had some mushrooms," said Siu, rubbing his chin. Several villagers licked their lips. A few dashed away and returned with fresh mushrooms, noodles, pea pods, and cabbages. So they're really getting excited now, huh? Something magical then began to happen. Magic. There's a key word. Oh, sorry, I got distracted. As each person opened their heart to give, the next person gave even more. And as this happened, the soup grew richer and smelled more delicious. "I imagine the emperor would suggest we add dumplings," said one villager. "And bean curd," said another. "What about cloud ear and mung beans and yams?" cried some others. "And taro root and winter melon and baby corn," cried other villagers. "Garlic, ginger root, soy sauce, lily buds." I have some," people cried out. And off they ran, returning with all they could carry. Look at them carrying all this stuff and giving so much. "That's a lot of food. It's a big pot, right?" "That's a lot," he said. How good it smelled. How good it would taste. How giving the villagers had become. At last, the soup was ready. The villagers gathered together. They brought rice and steamed buns. They brought lychee nuts and sweet cakes. They brought tea to drink, and they lit lanterns. I love a lantern. Everyone sat down to eat. They had not been together for a feast like this for as long as anyone could remember. After the banquet, they told stories, sang songs, and celebrated long into the night. Then they unlocked their doors and took the monks into their homes and gave them very comfortable places to sleep. Wow, they gave them some. In the gentle spring morning, everyone gathered together near the willows to say goodbye, farewell. Thank you for having us as your guests, said the monks. You have been most generous. Thank you, said the villagers. With the gifts you have given, we will always have plenty. You have shown us that sharing makes us all richer. And to think, said the monks, to be as happy is as simple as making stone soup. The end. So, does anyone have an idea of what new tradition they may have started after the monks left their village?
Making stone soup.
Making stone soup. Very good. Yeah, they may make that all the time if it makes for such a nice night. Anyone else have an idea of a tradition that made that?
The villagers were giving gifts.
The villagers began giving gifts to each other. I like that. Yeah, let's me out. Their new tradition was they would put onions in every time. I like it.
They were given they were saying that they had no food, but they actually had a lot of food.
So they had nothing, and then they had more to give, yeah, and they realized that. Very nice. So maybe we can help. Maybe the young people here can help us create new traditions for our church all around us all the time. So on that note, you can either go up to the RE space or hang out here for the rest of the service as we talk about our theme of traditions. It's your choice. Talk to your parents and your families, of course, and we will transition and get out of everyone's way. We love you guys. All right, off you go. Thank you so much, and thank you all for indulging us in our time for all ages.
I'd like to invite you all to find yourselves in your pews. Begin to settle in, find your feet on the floor, your sit bones pressing evenly into the pew. And begin to attend to your breath. Feel it moving in and out of your belly. And come into being here and now. Spirit of life and love, Holy One of our being and our becoming, that which is sacred within, among, and beyond us. Come sit with us today. Awaken us to ourselves and our loved ones as we pray. And we pray for Baltimore. We pray for the grieving, for the angry, and for the scared. We pray for the people. We pray for those who've lost hope and those who suddenly find themselves hopeful. We pray for those trying to do right and for those who know that they've done wrong. We pray for complex, enculturated, loving, hating, raging, grieving, precious, community. We pray for those who are like us, and we pray for those who are not like us. As we hold that city in our hearts, we know that Baltimore could be Chicago, could be Ferguson, could be Oakland, could be Milwaukee, Cleveland, Birmingham, Selma. For the Black Lives Matter movement, we pray. For the police and the politicians, we pray. For the past and for the present, we pray. For the future spirit of love, for our children, all that is holy, for ourselves, O sacred one of our being and our becoming, for all that is, we pray. Blessed be, and amen.
My pink hair is often a new person's first warning of my stance on tradition. I originally dyed it just for fun, but it turned out to be an excellent interpersonal screening tool. For instance, when we first walked through the doors of TUC and sat down right over there where Nancy is sitting right now, Mina Bollinger was not dissuaded by my fuchsia locks. She walked up to us in all earnestness and professed how very happy she and you all were to have us visit. My hair did not let me down. It's become more and more obvious over our years of membership just how non-traditional my family is. And you all have continued to love and support us. Anyone who knows TUC wouldn't be surprised. Radical welcome is just how we do things here. Another thing we do around here is music. Kyle and friends bring us awesome renditions of contemporary music most weeks, as we heard so far this morning. And I wouldn't have it any other way. But the stuff in the hymnals is really what makes my heart sing. For instance, Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. What? No, don't tell me to sing soul in the place of wretch. I don't care that good youths shouldn't call themselves a wretch. You can't just go changing the lyrics of a traditional hymn all willy-nilly. This is how it's sung. Okay, maybe I'm not so non-traditional when it comes to music. Singing the same songs again and again in the same way makes me feel safe and comfortable and at home. You may have heard that the trend among UU youth is to leave the church once they come of age, to return only when they've had children of their own, if at all. There's speculation in the movement that one reason for this is that the youth don't get the opportunity to develop those same feelings of comfort I described in the traditions of worship, the liturgical rhythm, familiar songs and meditations. Like we did before this year, many UU churches send their youth off to religious education classes during the worship hour to be taught by one small niche of the congregation, usually the parents, and to form a community of their own. And that space becomes the place that feels like home to them. This is why I advocated for 10 a.m. RE and why I advocate for the kids to stay with us in the service. I had hoped that the opportunity to participate every week in our traditions would help our youth feel ownership of them. I hope that with RE held separately from the service, more non-parental volunteers would step up and help us bridge the gap between us and them. Even though RE will be at 11 again next year, due to a lack of volunteers and a lack of participation by the youth in either 10 a.m. RE or the service itself, I still have hope that we can make them at home in our larger congregational community, that we can help them to feel the weight of our traditions in their very souls. However, as religious historian Yaroslav Pelikan said, tradition is not fixed for all time. It is the perpetuation of a changing, developing identity. Tradition lives in conversation with the past while remembering where we are and when we are, and that it is we who have to decide. My hope is that we can break away from the idea that how we've always done things is the only way to do things. My hope is that we will consider how to build a truly multi-generational culture in our congregation. RE classes taught by adults with no children in class. Worship services intentionally crafted to speak to people of every age. Social action that invites and encourages youth participation. Our tradition of radical welcome here requires us to make our congregation an inviting